Okay, good morning, everyone. So we are from Group 6, consists of 2 members. There are myself, Felix Effendi, and my friend Patricia Paliswani. So in here, we will present our material about CBR and TGR. And then the table of contents of our material. The first is book content for our CBR, and the second is journal content for our CGR, and the third is references. So for the first speaker is Putri Zulfaliswani. For Putri, time and place are yours.
Thank you for Lilis. The next is chapter 1, summary of the book. In fact, the more experience of non-Japanese has in doing business with Japanese, the more aware he or she becomes of the difficulty of communication as an obstacle, as Japan has become a key part of the intricate global business environment. The foreign business person working in Japan or with Japanese companies outside of Japan may encounter a wide variety of communication gaps arising from differences in cultural value and assumption, business custom, and language. The foreign business person who understands the cultural background of his or her Japanese custom, suppliers, and business associates will be better prepared to build strong partnership and take advantage of expanding business opportunities in the global market. And the next cultural foundation of Japanese communication style. And the first is group orientation. In Japanese society, the individual has traditionally derived identity from group affiliation including family, school, and company. In Japan, business people will often mention the name of the company they belong to before their own name when meeting someone for the first time. In country the size of California, with a population nearly equal to that of Russia, the maintenance of relationship has been critical to survival. Without the elbow room of a frontier environment, where one could always move away if relationships soured with neighbors, Japanese have relied on internal restraint in order to maintain harmony and the social order. And the next is tendency to conform. There are many Japanese sayings that advise people to yield in the face of opposition. Nagai mono niwa makarero might be the Japanese equivalent of if you can beat M join M. Go ni ireba go ni siste means something like when in Romeo do as the Romans. An individual who disagree too strongly or insists of maintaining a different opinion disrupts the harmony of group consensus and may be thought to be immature. On the other hand, someone who considers the good of the group before speaking or acting is considered a person with character and maturity. Westerners sometimes interpret this tendency to conform as weakness or a lack of imagination, but in Japan, a person who speaks or regardless of what the rest of the group thinks make him or herself look ridiculous and lose credibility. And next, Hun and Tetame. Pronouns Honene and Tataimae. Because of the collective nature of Japanese society and the need to maintain relationship, Japanese often make a distinction between their true feeling or personal opinion, hone, and what they know they should say in public because it is the appropriate thing to say in the situation, or tatame. All cultures make this distinction in certain situations. However, many foreign business people express frustration at not being able to distinguish which when doing business with Japanese. Strategies for distinguishing honi and tatame will be discussed in section on meetings. The next The second is hierarchy, the roots of hierarchy. In the collective relationship-oriented culture of Japan, respecting and maintaining hierarchical relationship is essential in society and business. The importance of hierarchy in Japanese culture is based in the social ethics of Confucianism, in which people are ordered in vertical, hierarchical relationship, for example, customer or higher and vendor or lower. A stable society depends on the proper maintenance of this hierarchical relationship. Next. And the next, hierarchical relationship in business. The relationship between customer and vendor is one of the many hierarchical relationships in Japanese business culture. Others are parent company and subsidiary, head office and branch office, manager and subordinate, senior, a person who joined the company earlier, and junior. In this relationship, each person has certain expectation of the other. For example, a manager is supposed to be concerned about subordinates' welfare, even to extent of helping them in their private life. In turn, a subordinate is expected to trust his or her manager's judgment and not question his or her decision. One problem in the contemporary Japanese workplace occurs when a manager and subordinate no longer share this same expectation. There is an increasing number of people in the younger generation who value individualism and prefer to keep some distance between their private life and their work and employers. I think that's all for me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you for Putri. And the next is seniority. An important manifestation of hierarchy in Japanese business is seniority. Seniority has traditionally been an important criterion for promotion, although there is currently a shift away from seniority towards meritocracy. Here is an example. In negotiations between two companies, the Japanese expect each side to send people of the same age and position who literally sit across from each other during the discussions. Such expectation based on hierarchy can make it difficult for Japanese to negotiate as equals or with someone who is younger or older. And the next is form and formality. Although many modern Japanese are not particularly conscious of this religious heritage, the Shinto religion is the origin of many rituals that survive today. From Shinto comes the concept of kata, or form, the right way to do something. Those who have studied a martial art such as karate know about the painstaking, repetitive practice of kata basic forms, which must be mastered before one even throws a punch. In business, the importance of form can be observed in the attention that is given to correct procedure when Japanese exchange business cards. The prescribed way is a way that is the result of long tradition and experience, and therefore something to be mastered. When all members of society understand and conform to the kata, ambiguity is removed. And then situational behavior. In Japanese culture, behavior tends to be situational. Appropriate behavior is tied to many factors, including the place, the rank, or relative status of other people who may be present and one's relationship to those people. Understanding how these factors influence behavior can help the foreign business person avoid misunderstandings. For example, a common complaint from foreigners who do business with Japanese is the difficulty of getting input or opinions. The Western marketing manager of a manufacturer of medical devices visited Japan and complained that the sales manager of a major Japanese account had no strategy. And the next is high context communication. Japan is what cultural anthropologist Edward Hall, in his work Silent Language, refers to as a high context culture. The Japanese people are relatively homogeneous and share a long history of common values and assumptions instilled by strong families in a very standardized educational system. When communicating with each other, it is therefore not necessary to verbalize everything explicitly. Since there is a shared background, a kind of shorthand can be used. Feelings can be communicated with few words or through subtle nonverbal cues. There is a Japanese saying, hear one, understand ten. Silence can also have great meaning. And then the material is nonverbal communication. Choosing nonverbal communication over verbal communication. People from high context cultures such as Japan will sometimes choose implicit nonverbal communication over explicit verbal communication. They may feel that verbal communication is too blunt or unnecessarily obvious, whereas expressing yourself non-verbally is more subtle and considerate. Japanese sometimes avoid expressing negative message, responses, or reactions verbally. Particular nonverbal behaviors to watch for which may indicate a negative reaction to your words or behavior are silence and averting the eyes. And then advice for foreign business people. The first, a common non-Japanese reaction to silence or a break in eye contact is to try to explain more about one's own opinion or situation. Additional words can, however, actually make the situation more uncomfortable for the Japanese. Therefore, a good strategy when you observe silence or averted eyes is to mirror that behavior and wait for the Japanese person to form a response. I think that's all from me. I give it back to Putri.
Okay, thank you for Lilis. The next is confusing nonverbals. Um, okay, I'm sorry. And then the next material is family. I'm sorry for the next material is confusing nonverbals. And a laughter. An American computer engineer said Japanese often laugh when confronted unexpectedly by a different view or understanding of a situation. This laughter may well express surprise but seems at the first impression directed at the speaker of his opinion. The Japanese have an expression for one type of laughter, aisowarai, which can be translated as polite laughter, diplomatic laughter, or even fake laughter. One meaning of the polite laugh is that person does not understand that English being spoken. Therefore, the laughter may indicate confusion or embarrassment, and even a hope that the speaker will clarify. Another meaning of the polite laugh is the reluctance of the Japanese to give a direct negative response to what the speaker said. In other words, instead of saying a direct no or I disagree, the Japanese give a polite look to send the message to the speaker. The next. The next is advice for foreign business people. The first is wait and let the other person give more information. The second is paraphrase your words in a simpler, clearer way to help the other person understand without bringing attention to his or her inability to understand the first time. Sometimes it is best to simply repeat the same thing slowly and clearly rather than paraphrasing and adding to the confusion. And the next, drawing in a ear through the teeth. Many people believe that when a Japanese business person draws in air through his or her teeth, it indicates complete disagreement or an immovable no. It can be better interpreted as partial disagreement or an I can say yes. In other words, there is something that the Japanese doesn't agree with, or there is some reason he or she cannot say yes. The next. Next is silence. Japanese silence is often interpreted negatively. For example, it could be took to indicate lack of interest, inattention, daydreaming, confusion, lack of confidence, or lack of intelligence. But silence may be a more neutral or positive message. The first is I'm translating or processing the English which I've heard. Please wait. I'm thinking about how to respond to what you said. Please wait. And the third, I really don't know. Please suggest a course of action and save my face. The fourth is, I'm confused by your words or logic. Or please paraphrase or elaborate. I trust you and we don't need to say anything else right now. Or please remain silent. And the last, I partially disagree with you but want to avoid direct confrontation, or please consider my position and reconsider your position. Next. And the next is advice for foreign business people. The first is when you receive a drawing in it took the teeth response, it is a good idea to wait or to probe for the aspect of the situation that the Japanese feels uncomfortable with. And the second, avoid negative interpretation of silence learned in your own cultural context and try to figure out what the other person is feeling or trying to communicate to you. Clarify if necessary. Remember, Japanese value silence. They also have the saying silence is golden. And next. And the next material is about family. Family or kazoku in Japanese is a foundational part of Japanese society. An individual's identity, reputation, obligation, and responsibilities are deeply connected to their family. Japanese family structures have been influenced by Confucian ideas of undefined hierarchical social relationship over the centuries. The traditional household structure is known as EA, which refers to multi-generational household with a head. Traditionally, the work maintained authority and responsibility for all family members with homes usually located near the extended family of the husband. The cultural importance of the family unit is reflected in the Koseki, Japan's official family registry. This registry regards the household to be the basic unit of society rather than the individual. The Koseki requires all the household to report the details of their family members such as birthplace, date of birth, relocation of the family to another municipality, marriages, divorces, acknowledgement of paternity of children, adoption, and deaths. As a result, people tend to be more acutely aware of their family history, and then it's common in many other cultures up to generation. Usually a couple and their children can be included in a koseki, which means that when people marry, they usually keep a spirit koseki from their parents. People tend to be concerned with which koseki they are registered in and how they are interred, and this can have effect in other aspects of life. I think that's all for me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you for Putri. So I will continue the material. And the next is Japanese literature. Japanese literature refers to the written materials produced by Japanese authors in the past. The two most well-known Japanese literary works are The Tale of Genji and haiku poems. The Tale of Genji is a novel written in the 11th century, which is sometimes called the world's first novel. It is a story about a prince who was kicked out of the imperial family and had love affairs among commoners. Haiku is the name given to minimalistic poems that consist of three phrases uttered in 17 syllabi, 575. The topic is usually about seasonal change and the praise in the middle connects two distinct concepts. Recently, Haruki Murakami became famous for his novel based on strange characters and absurd moments of life. His style is considered Western, but his novels still reflect everyday life in Japan. And next is Japanese mythology and legends. The most popular Japanese myths are about how Japanese islands were created and how the Emperor of Japan was ascended to the world. These myths were originally mentioned in Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, the first history books written in Japanese around the 8th century. According to the legend, the islands of Japan were created by two divine gods, Izanami and Izanagi, who were siblings. Izanagi later gave birth to three gods, including the sun god Amaterasu. The grandson of Amaterasu turned into a human being and ascended to the world. That person was Imu, the first emperor of Japan. There are many gods in Japanese mythology, but the sun god Amaterasu is the most important god, and her three sacred belongings are the mirror, jewel, and sword are still kept by the imperial family today. And the next is about dating and marriage. Some Japanese youth may begin to date around the age of 15. However, most do not have much free time due to schooling commitments and hence may start dating in their late teens or early 20s during university. Couples often meet through university clubs and friends. A popular practice among some young adults is gokon, similar to a group blind date, where a couple invites their friends out to a restaurant or bar for everyone to get to know each other and find potential partners. Some people may turn to online dating service, a matchmaker or go-between, or in Japan, nakodo, who is usually an older female relative or a friend. Popular dating activities include going to caves, parks, or other recreational places. Most Japanese people marry in their late 20s to early 30s. Weddings are generally considered to be a serious event that commemorates the joining of two families. There are a number of traditional customs that may be involved in the engagement process and wedding. Today, most families get to know each other over a shared meal prior to the wedding. Both Western style, white weddings, and traditional Japanese weddings based on Shinto practice are popular. Some couples may incorporate elements of both. For example, a couple may change into different outfits throughout the day to suit the style, such as a black suit and a white wedding dress, or a monsuki, black pants and coat combination adorned with family crest, and a shiromuku, that is white wedding kimono ensemble. Many hotels or wedding halls in Japan have a small Shinto shrines to help facilitate traditional weddings. Same-sex marriage is not legal in Japan. However, there have been steps taken in the past decade towards recognition of same-sex relationships by local governments. For example, numerous cities and some prefectures have started izu or non-legally binding certificates recognizing same-sex unions. The first is somewhat uncommon, and there are some economic pressures and social stigmas associated with the dissolving of marriage. Nonetheless, divorce rates have been increasing over the last couple of decades. And then the next is about religion in Japanese culture. There are two dominant religions in Japan, Shinto and Buddhism. Neither of them has a clear definition of God and Judgment Day. Shintoism doesn't even have any holy book or the concept of sin. So, in a Western sense, Japanese religions are more like tradition rather than holy belief system. Shintoism is Japan's own religion where some natural objects are considered sacred but not necessarily worshipped as gods. Buddhism proposes that everyone can become a Buddha or the enlightened human if he or she lives worldly desires and lives a simple life. Japanese people traditionally go to both Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, so they are both Shintoist and Buddhist. Okay, for the next, I give it to Putri.
Okay, thank you for Lilis. And the next topic is symbols in Japanese culture. Japan has an indirect communication style, so there are many symbols in everyday life. Some of the Japanese symbols and their meanings are 1. Salt, purity. 2. Crane, longevity. 3. Sakura is beautiful things don't last long. 4. Carp is perseverance. 5 is red gate, the door to the secret world. And 6 dragon is strength. And 7 is chrysanthemum flower is imperial family. And the 8 Japanese flag is the sun. And then 9 rune circle is universe. And the 10 beckoning cat is good fortune and money. And the next.